Hey friends, we are looking at the Pantasy telescope. This is their set number 85054 and it has 1077 pieces. This set is supposed to be an antique brass telescope, maybe one that you might find in the 19th century. And it is a telescope that's made of mostly brass and with some wood elements. And so you see a lot of like sprayed gold pieces here. And then everything you see here that's brown is supposed to be wood. In this video, we will look at the tripod. We'll see how much that can articulate. We'll look at what the telescope can do. And then we're going to look at the feature that it comes with where we can actually see and look down this eyepiece into the mirror, and you can see specific star charts that this particular telescope toy comes with. All right, so what are we looking at here? This is considered the eyepiece, that's my understanding. And here is the finder scope. So that's a different scope so that you have a wider field of view, so that you look through here to sort of figure out what you want to use the telescope on. With the eyepiece, it does have that mirror in here in both the real one and this toy. This particular toy does come with a mirror that you place in there, and I'll show an image of what that looks like. And once you do that, there's actually a hollow tube through this entire toy all the way to the very end here, and this is where the star chart is stored, is right here in the tip. So we'll zoom in and take a look at that better. This is the lens, sometimes called the objective lens, and there is a cap that this one comes with. And this is supposed to be typical for it to be on a chain so you don't lose it. And has this little nub on it, and boom, you can cover it. But this toy comes with a clear like dish piece here that lets light in. And then for the base, there's a lot of wood here, and it is supposed to be articulated. So let's take a look at how that works. Let's start with the base. We'll zoom in here, and you can actually rotate as you were seeing, and I can disconnect one axle, and then from there the entire thing moves as one unit. So that's about as much as you can collapse it down. You can think of that as it being taller, and then you just press it together and it will come together again. One of the things, since we're here, that I really love about this is this gold is really, really well done. And they use these rubber pieces here for the joints to look as though they are, to look like they're maybe threaded nuts or something, to just kind of help with that articulation for these key areas. So that was a clever use of those. And then if you see here, it has the suggestion of being able to slide along this track right here. And you actually can do it. So let's do that real quick. I'll show you what that looks like. You can change the height of these by removing that one piece there. It's a 2x4 tile. And then this is just held in with those studs. So you can actually move it all the way up to like there. And then put this back on like that. And if you did that to all three, you would have a much lower tripod. So let's do that real quick. All right, so that's with all the legs shortened up and just kind of collapsed in there. I don't know if that was intentional for them to do it that way. It may have just been a happy accident that it was adjustable. But this is a clever little thing that you can do if, let's say, you don't have enough shelf space and you need to keep it lower. I'd probably cut about 5 inches off of it just by doing that. The other thing I'll show you are these feet. So they have a little bit of articulation there, and they turn, they rotate, they turn, and they're on these tires. So the tires do have a little bit of depth to them. You could always push the tire down a little bit more so that it would be non-sliding. So it would just have a little bit more grip on a table. For me, I think it is currently sort of touching the wheels, and so it does slide a slight amount, but it's not too bad. All right, I'm going to reset this back to the normal height. All right, now that we're back to normal height, I'll show you the adjustment to tilt the telescope. So there is a knob here, and you just turn it, and you need to use both hands. I got a little nervous only doing it with one hand. I felt like I might actually break it. There are a lot of gears in there. I don't know if you can see that create friction. They're there specifically to make sure that they once you move it to a specific angle, it stays at that angle. And it also makes for the amount of rotation you make with your hands. It's a little bit amplified with the overall rotation and tilt that happens. So I like that. And of course you can see how ornate the design is here. There are these heart-shaped pieces that make up a little clover, and overall it's just really uh, uh, fancy looking. And then while we're here, I did want to point out that I did have a lot of problems with one section that happens to have a lens in it. And I think it was this one, I want to say. And it was either this one or this one. But in putting that lens in, it has to be constructed in a very specific way. And so it kept collapsing on me. I had to rebuild it like 3 different times. It really would have been wonderful if it included some helper pieces that you could put in place while you're snapping everything together. In this case, though, because that lens was in the way, I think that's why they could not put any helper pieces in place. So that made it really tough. It just collapsed 2, then 3 times, and by the 4th time I was just like, oh my gosh. So I had to rebuild it a couple times. That was not that fun. All right, and here's a little closer look at the eyepiece. There's nothing that moves or on this. It looks like maybe it could do something or move, but what it does have right here is it does have a mirror. So on the inside right here is a mirror. So you're looking through. The mirror then lets you see all the way through. And like I said, I think the extra lens is right here. There's a lens that is convex on both sides. And then you can see clear through to the other end. And so let's look at the other end here. Let's move this guy down a little bit. I'm going to tilt it down a little just so we can see it in the camera. So this is where the toy's star charts are stored. So you'll see there's one right here. It looks like it's Saturn. And it comes with 2 more. So if that was Saturn, then I don't know what this is. Milky Way. Maybe this is the moon. So you can swap those out just by detaching there, put the new chart on it, snapping it back in, and then putting it inside. And you can actually see it from the other end of the telescope. So you do need to have maybe a little bit of light coming into here, but it's impressive that the tiny little mirror on that eyepiece end can actually see this. So I'm going to try to show you what that looks like with my camera. I'm going to put my camera right up to the eyepiece, and we'll see if we can check that out. Here's what it looks like when you put the cap on. And like I mentioned, a lot of sprayed gold on this. It's really beautiful, and it catches the light very well, and it is kind of convincing almost for it to be brass. It's pretty close. I do like that a lot. I do wish they had figured out a way to add a little bit of friction right in here so that it would stay oriented. I'm not sure how they could have done that. Gearing would have been probably too elaborate, but even if they had just added a little bit of rubber in there, that would have actually created it. So if they just maybe figured out a way to put a couple of these little pieces in, then that would actually create just enough so that it would stay in the position that it was in. I want to thank Pantasy for sending this telescope to me for review. It is an impressive piece. I could see this sitting on an end table or in somebody's study, and it would be mistaken for a real one, I would think. That's what's cool about their retro collection when they're doing these objects. The objects can be mistaken for real objects. Now it is smaller than a real one. My understanding is that a real one is probably going to be 3 to 5 feet long. This one here is probably less than 2 feet long. I'd say maybe 15 inches or so end to end. And stands maybe about 15, 18 inches tall or so as well. They do such a great job just making these models look and feel like the real thing. So it's a way to just appreciate and showcase your love of the stars, stargazing with one of these. All right, so I hope you got to see everything you wanted to see. Like the video if you like it. Hit subscribe, all those things. And if you want to buy this, I do have a link in my description where you can purchase this. And those are affiliate links that helps out the channel. Thanks so much.